Why do the Dolphins elect him as opposed to maybe waiting 11 days and finding somebody deep in the draft?
Well, it's a great question, and maybe it's not so clear as to whether he'll be the third option because they also, don't forget, signed Braxton Berrios this season as well. So suddenly, a bit of a logjam when it comes to that number 3 receiver. Now, they did lose Trent Sherfield, who was their third receiver behind Tyreek Hill and Jaylen Waddle to free agency. He went to the Buffalo Bills. So now, instead, Anderson will be competing for that third spot with Berrios and maybe a few of these other players on the roster. Certainly seems like a wealth of talent that the Dolphins are stockpiling this offseason. And I guess now it means, though, that the Dolphins can perhaps go into the draft and look to address other needs in other positions. So Robbie Anderson, Chosen Anderson, a bit of a surprise to see him sign with the Dolphins, but ultimately a pretty big signing for Miami.
The Miami Dolphins have a new wide receiver named Robbie Anderson. Actually, his real name is now Chosen Anderson. He changed his name about 2 months ago. Do you know why? Do you know what happened? We'll come back to that in a bit. I've seen dozens and dozens of tweets talking about Chosen Anderson coming to the Miami Dolphins. But not one person on Twitter and nobody in the media is talking about what I'm about to tell you. And obviously, you're not going to hear this from anybody else on YouTube. It's absolutely mind-boggling to me that so many people are missing the revival that's happening with the Miami Dolphins or intentionally trying to ignore it. So here we have the Miami Dolphins signing a new wide receiver who seems to be bringing along with him a lot of baggage. A few years ago, he was arrested a couple times in the span of just a few months. In one of his arrests, he spewed some of the vilest things you'd ever hear. But here in 2023, he's got a new name and a new football team. So why would the Miami Dolphins sign such an obviously broken man? A man who's had a series of run-ins with the police. A man who has bounced from team to team. Do you think he would disrupt the team's culture? Would he disrupt the locker room? So why would the Miami Dolphins bring in a player that from the outside, it doesn't look like he fits with the culture of the team? Why? I'm going to tell you why. I've told you before, and I'm going to say it again today. The Miami Dolphins are obviously driven by an internal movement that some people aren't looking at. Some of you understand, but many don't. Remember, I told you this guy changed his name from Robbie Anderson to Chosen Anderson. He changed his name because he said he's no longer that person. He changed his name because he said it represented a new start for him. So what kind of change happens to where someone feels compelled enough to change their name and feel chosen? What kind of new start happens where someone feels like they've been led out of darkness? What kind of new start allows a man who's had a troubled past to finally die to self? Do you even know what die to self means? Well, you're about to find out. But first, let's take a look at the former Robbie Anderson. So this article on Business Insider was from January 19th, 2018, and it describes in detail, horrible detail, everything that Robbie Anderson did when he was arrested for basically driving out of his mind, completely out of control. He was driving 105 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone. And if that wasn't bad enough, and it's a long article and you guys can look it up, it's up here, but in the back of the patrol vehicle, while arrested, while in handcuffs, Anderson said he was gonna find out who the cop's wife was, he was going to F her, and then, quote, nut in her eye. He continued to make other verbal threats towards the guy's family, and based on his statements, it was clear he intended to sexually assault the guy's wife. He also began to brag about how much money he had and how all along, all this guy was doing was trying to ruin his fun. Is that the kind of guy we want down here at South Beach? Is Robbie Anderson the type of man that you'd want on the Miami Dolphins? No, but Robbie Anderson no longer exists.
I know I'm that boy, you feel me? And I know that a lot of the things I go through is like, I feel like a lot of times people don't want me to get the credit or the opportunity that I deserve. So I've always had to fight through the politics and all the things, and I didn't have that red carpet, but also too, I know what I'm doing is is inspiring kids that's going through them similar circumstances. So I always knew I'm going through these things for something bigger than me, and my biggest thing is to inspire. You feel me? And I know a lot of people live through me. A lot of people that didn't make it in the position where I'm from, they live through me. People that's in situations, they live through me, my family. So that's why I keep that chip on my shoulder, because I know nothing's gonna be handed to me.
He obviously made the choice to die to self. And if you don't know what that means, I'm about to show you right now. So what does the Bible mean by die to self? And yes, it is a biblical term. What it means is the concept of dying to self is found throughout the New Testament. It expresses the true essence of the Christian life, in which we take up our cross and follow Christ. Dying to self is a part of being born again. You get that? Dying to self is a part of being born again. The old self dies and the new self comes to life. John 3:3-7. Not only are Christians born again when we come to salvation, but we also continue dying to self as a part of the process of sanctification. As such, dying to self is both a one-time event and a lifelong process. It's a one-time event and a lifelong process. That's why when people say, oh, Christians always screw up. Yeah, we always screw up because you know why? We're doing a lifelong process. Robbie Anderson is no longer here. Robbie Anderson is dead naming what Chosen has decided to do. He is now Chosen Anderson, and he's letting everybody know what he plans on doing going forward. Think I'm making it up? Let's look at a couple things. Robbie Anderson has chosen to die to self. He is new. He is reborn. Some of us would say born again in Christ. The old Robbie no longer exists. That person is gone. He started life over again. You may not like it, you may not believe it, but that's what we believe. Now let me show you what Chosen Anderson is all about. This is Chosen Anderson's Instagram page. He only has 7 posts. He wiped his entire Instagram account. He's got 187,000 followers, and you can see the first thing he says up here is Chosen, his new name, gamer, which, you know, he likes to game, and God first. Now let's dig into something a little bit interesting. See this post right here? You click on here and hope you can see it. It's Bible study, growing closer to God and staying obedient to God, and having the wisdom and discernment is a blessing. Jesus never failed me. I know his plans are bigger than what I imagined, and I appreciate all the grace he continuously has for me. You seeing this? Are you actually seeing this? You're not just blinking at it and go, oh, Barry, you're full of it. This is what he wrote. I know God is leading me to my destiny, and more importantly, preparing me for my best, continuing to direct my steps. Don't allow defeat to distract you. It's a test, and a no or closed chapter is just approved by God to continue to do right with a great attitude and trust in God, and stay patient and still, that's a big term, and grow closer to the man above, love from the heavens. God is the greatest. And if you notice, this was posted, and you can see on here, just 3 days ago. He was waiting on something. He was waiting on something to happen. And what do you think it was? Chosen put this on his Instagram account in the form of 2 different stories. The story on the left says, right after he got signed, let's go, I prayed for this, at Chosen IRA, which is his new name. And on the right is something that he actually posted. Congrats, they can't stop God's plan. Are you seeing this? Are you really seeing it? Let's look at a couple other things. This is Chosen's Twitter file. He has taken down his background graphic, and it's just a picture of him right now. And you can see right here in his profile, it said, God, family, amazing things. And what's really interesting is if you scroll through here and you see the kind of stuff that he's been posting, he's talking to Coach Prime. Coach Prime is a huge believer, and he's raising his kids, and he's also coaching his kids at Colorado to follow the path. Then you get down here. This is what's really interesting to me. He retweeted this, which was a quote from Jaylen Ramsey. I'll be the first to say I need Jesus every single day, no matter if things are going bad or good. Thank you, Jesus. I just wanted to show you that. I just wanted you to see the continuing theme that's going on with some of these new Dolphins players. And with the connection between Jalen Ramsey and Dalvin Cook, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Dalvin Cook comes to the Miami Dolphins. We shall see. Is it clear to you now? The only way it can't be clear is if you're intentionally looking away. And don't worry, I'm not here to convert anyone. I'm not even here to try to convert anyone. I'm not even here to try to preach to anyone. I am not qualified to do either. I'm just sitting here on a Sunday feeling amazingly blessed. I couldn't do the video by the pool because it was thundering and lightning, but nonetheless, this just made me feel really good. I'm watching all of this happen with the Miami Dolphins, and I just feel excited about what this growing collection of chosen young men are going to be able to do in this community. And I'm not even talking about football. I don't believe at all that God has a favorite football team. I just want to see what these guys are going to accomplish together. This is way bigger than football. It's just awesome to see so many players on one football team actually feel chosen, feel compelled to doing something bigger than football. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. So let me know what you think. Chosen Anderson has joined the Miami Dolphins. Whether he'll make the roster or not doesn't matter. He's become a part of the nucleus of this team that is driven to do something much more. And at this point, you can't really ignore it. It's staring you right in the face. And if Dalvin Cook signs with the Miami Dolphins, I'll be right back here with another video about it. So let me know what you think. Fins up.
Is anybody catching on to this Barry guy?